It's Press Corps people. I'm David Cruz. Our premier panel this week includes Madison Fernandez of Politico NJ, Brent Johnson of NJ Advanced Media, and Charles Stile of NorthJersey.com and the USA Today Network. Panel, great to have you. Thanks for doing this. Let's start off with early voting, which is ongoing. Brent, anything from the first few days of this stand out to you?
It's interesting. You get uh, optimism from both sides and some pessimism early on from Republicans, but Democrats are liking their numbers. They're saying that they're really padding and having a lead going into Tuesday. Republicans are also like their vote by mail numbers that have been better than past years, but in general, Democrats are ahead. So that's the end of the story. So basically, it'll come down to whether Republicans can close the gap on election day.
Is that what it looks like out there to you, Madison? People were making a thing of it. They were having like opening day celebrations.
I mean, the spin was making me a little dizzy on both sides. The reality is with early voting, sure, they are good signs of momentum, and Democrats are very happy with how it's looking right now. But you also have to keep in mind that Republicans have historically not liked early voting, not liked mail-in voting. So I think that even though there was a really big push for Republicans to do that this year, there's still a lot of holdouts. So a lot of people might still be waiting for election day. So historically, Democrats do vote more early. So sure, they can celebrate, but you can only read so much into it.
Right. Charlie, even I was talking to Tom Kane Sr.
Saw
This
that.
week, and he said that he likes that stuff, the
The
early
early
voting
voting.
stuff. And
Okay.
it was his generation who was kind of against it
Yeah.
early on, but Republicans are digging it now.
Well, some, as Madison alluded to. I mean, if you go back to the tele town hall or whatever you want to call that conference call with
Yeah.
Trump, I mean, he's the embodiment of ambivalence about it. Yeah, I don't know. Some people do. If you want to do it that way, go ahead. I prefer in person. He was all over the map about the issue. And in a way, he was kind of expressing some reservations still in the base, which he stokes. He's been largely responsible for the uh, antipathy towards
Yeah.
early voting, and so a lot of the party has moved on beyond past him and his concerns. Now, I've seen, the one spot for the Republicans in New Jersey is that the numbers seem to be better than 2021, but the question going forward on election day is, are those people who are voting early, those Republican people, are they the same people are not going to be voting on election day? In other words, will it be drawing from their big account they're hoping to cash in on election day?
Yeah, I always wonder about that. Brent, if you get people voting 10 days before election day, aren't you kind of letting the air out of the balloon a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the criticisms of early voting. But it does. I do see people who are still learning about this because we're still early in the process of it, of especially early in-person voting, where they seem kind of surprised and happy, where they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that on Friday I could go do this." So maybe we're just still getting really used to this, and we're maybe a half decade away from where it becomes the norm.
Right.
But yeah, it still feels a little weird because we're all used to getting up on Tuesday before work and going to this. To me, I go to the elementary school that I went to when I was a kid. So people there, I've seen people I've known for like 40 years.
It's going to be a new tradition then. There'll be like a week's worth of parties celebrating election
Yeah,
day.
And
yeah,
just another thing I'll say about the early voting spin from
Yeah.
both sides is there's no perfect comparison. I think this is an issue that we saw with pollsters expressing with polling the electorate this year. Like, there's not a good idea of what the electorate is going to look like compared to 24. Obviously, in a presidential election, that's much different. You'll notice that the Democrats are comparing their numbers to 24, and then the Republicans are comparing to 21, which
Right.
again, that it might be a closer electorate considering it was an off year gubernatorial, but you also have to keep in mind that was COVID and mail-in voting was fairly new then. So I there's not a perfect comparison
Right.
when
It's not apples to apples.
yeah.
Yeah. So President Obama is going to be in town this weekend. The surrogates have descended on New Jersey. Why? Madison, I mean, do people in West New York care who Ruben Gallegos is?
I think it really helps build enthusiasm and it helps with national press coverage. You know, Republicans are saying that this is a sign that Democrats are worried that they're bringing in all of these surrogates. I don't necessarily read it that way. This is pretty standard practice to bring in outside folks and rile up the base. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's changing many minds. I don't really know someone who's on the fence and they're like, oh, President Obama's here. Now I'm voting for Mikey Sherrill. I mean, maybe, but I don't think that is a large consensus.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah, and I also think that when you look at the types of people who are coming, it's a lot of more middle of the road, up and coming Democrats, and some of them who have their eye on 2028 for the presidential election.
yeah.
So I think it's a lot of relationship building and just getting their name out there and being able to say, hey, I helped this Democrat become governor.
Madison makes a great point, Charles. Who are they trying to convince here?
Well, I think it is important, and it's essential to Mikey Sherrill and the National Democratic strategy. At the end of the day, they want to remind voters that that a loss here is a win for Trump and a win for MAGAism, a win for Trumpism. They are trying to stir people, frankly, with some fear, a fear that New Jersey suddenly will be in his pocket and will no longer be a reliable blue redoubt up here.
Right.
And they want to remember people going into that poll booth and say, you know what? I can't vote for Jack Ciattarelli because a vote for Jack Ciattarelli is a vote for Donald Trump. And by bringing in the Marines, if you will, from Josh Shapiro to Obama, it helps reinforce that message.
Brent, who's doing it better? I mean, I guess you can't really top having Obama come in for you. I guess uh, Ciattarelli could trump them by bringing Trump in, I guess, right?
Well, the risk there is that you may fire up the base by bringing him in, but then you turn him off to moderates who don't want to see him
Right.
photographed along Trump and appear with him. So that was kind of splitting the difference by getting him to do a telephone rally. So yeah, I mean the Democrats, yeah, are trying to form like a bulwark, like a national Democratic bulwark. Like these are all the big names coming in. Although you notice Kamala Harris hasn't come in, and Joe
They don't
Biden.
want him.
Yeah, they don't want her.
Yeah.
But
I will
yeah,
say about Kamala Harris really quickly. She did sign on to a fundraising email for Mikey earlier this week. I'm not confident we'll get more than that, but it was notable to me.
Right.
Yeah, that is
Stay
notable.
away from the microphones.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Trump, Kamala Harris, and as it is with Ciattarelli
Right.
and Trump. But yeah, I don't expect Trump to come to Wildwood on Sunday randomly. I mean, maybe on his own.
Switching gears a little bit here, who are the VOD and why is their endorsement so important to Jack Ciattarelli? Charles?
Well, it's a Orthodox an array of Jewish organizations and from politically influential leadership, and I think they tend to vote voters in Lakewood, particularly Jewish voters, tend to vote take that endorsement extremely closely, and so it's a much sought after prize by both parties.
Yeah.
And so Ciattarelli is, trying to win that base, and he's got that endorsement. It's key in Ocean County, and one of the big attractions for supporting Ciattarelli was his support of school vouchers.
Yeah.
So it's influential. Is it automatic? Does it mean it's it's going to tip the statewide scales? No.
Madison, didn't they went for Murphy last time, did they not?
Yes, they did. Generally, has been doing a lot to appeal to Jewish voters. Earlier this year, he took a trip to Israel. Something that really stands out to me in his campaign messaging is trying to tie Mikey Sherrill to Zohran Mamdani, who's running for mayor in New York City. And, you know, on first glance, it's kind of like why, why would New Jersey voters really care about that? But Mamdani's faced a lot of criticism for his criticisms of Israel. So
And
by
yikes, didn't Chitterelli's chief of Muslim affairs make some pretty disparaging and kind of racist remarks the day before?
Yes, he did. And Chitterley's response to that was, well, you've all seen how steadfast of a supporter I am of Israel. He was making a joke, and those are his views, and mine are that I support Israel. So he was trying to do some cleanup there, but then again was pointing back to his support of the Jewish community. So anyway, I think that his tying Cheryl to Mamdani has also been very clear instance of how he's trying to appeal to Jewish voters, because I think at large, maybe New Jersey voters might not care, but some in the Jewish community definitely might.
Yeah, let me stick with you here, Madison. I think you wrote about this week about the money that has made its way to New Jersey and sloshing around. How much do we know yet how much this campaign is going to cost? And is the money just going to keep coming in until Tuesday?
Well, it's certainly on track to be the most expensive gubernatorial election in the state. It's been really notable to me how much the national groups have been spending here. We already knew that Democrats were going to be spending a lot. They signaled that earlier this year. And I think Republicans were the open question because they tend to not spend in races where they don't think the Republican can win. And notably, they didn't spend that much the last time Charlie ran. So at this point, Democrats still are outspending Republicans, but the Republican Governors Association has put in a lot of money for Chitterelli as well, although the Democratic counterpart to them is still outspending them.
Yeah, where's it all going, Brent? I guess TV ads and Instagram ads?
Yeah, have you seen those TV ads? If you watch Jeopardy, it's Ken Jennings questions and then the candidates yelling about each other. So yeah, I mean, there's been, and I said this is the fourth governor's race I've covered. Not quite in Charlie's territory, but the four that I've covered by far the closest, the most heated, the rhetoric flying. It's been exhausting and annoying at times, and yeah, I guess the money's going to that. I mean, that's why it's a really this race is something.
They gotta spend it somewhere, Charles. Are they saving any money for operations?
You mean GOTV operations?
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think also the cost is you have the Jeopardy, the traditional TV ads from the expensive Philadelphia and New York markets, and they're still relying heavily, but in a more targeted fashion. As you mentioned, Jeopardy, that's an older demographic. I have to admit I watch it, but I
do
Brent
too.
also. So.
But that's an older audience, and they also target it towards. I see Chitterelli targets his ads in like baseball, high-profile sports events where you have suburban white male, heavily tilted. So you have that, but then this more micro targeting with digital and social media is not cheap either. So I think that's, as to Madison's point, I think it's just driving the numbers up.
What about field operations, Brent? Does anybody show that they've got more field operation or better field operation than anybody else?
Well, for months, the thought is, you hear from Republicans all the time that Jack Chitterelli goes everywhere. He goes to urban communities. He goes to Newark. He goes to the suburbs. He's all over the state. So he has been his own get out the vote operation. That's pretty much been the way he's been portrayed. And he does. We get his schedule. He's a very busy guy. And he has to be to make up the ground in New Jersey, which is a blue leaning state. But I've heard, the questions about Cheryl for a while have been, she's been too cautious. She doesn't fire up the base. that there's been Democratic bedwetting, which is pretty common in their party.
Did you say bedwetting?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
bedwetting.
Democrats wet the bed, and they get scared that they're going to lose, especially after what happened last year. Meaning, they Donald Trump returned to the presidency and Kamala Harris lost. So there's a fear that more of that's going to happen this time. But I've also heard some Democrats say that she has really picked it up in recent weeks, talked more about affordability, and that her ground game has been pretty impressive in the final weeks, that she really has gone out there and gotten her GOTV operations to spread out. So again, the polls, it's also hard to gauge the polls in this race. And, she's been ahead in almost all of them, but it's like anywhere from 1 to like 10 points.
Yeah.
So like throw a dart at the wall and see what it lands at. And I did in my newsletter this week, I did a piece about, I asked a bunch of anonymous sources what they thought was going to happen. And that was all over the map. Cheryl seems to be the favorite. That's kind of the theme. Even some Republicans are saying that, but there's certainly not like a clear-eyed view of how this is going to shake out on Tuesday.
Yeah, David, by the way, David, Democrats wet the bed, Republicans clutch the pearls. Go ahead.
Okay.
That is a wonderful Morrissey song title, by the way.
Excellent.
I don't know who Morrissey. I know Van Morrison. I don't know Morrissey.
Morrissey was the lead singer of the Smiths.
So. Oh, that guy. He's that Miserable. Yeah. He's always. Yeah.
You said Miserable. Madison, I was going to ask you something, but Charlie threw me off entirely.
Sorry, show's over.
So let me go to you, Charlie. Is there such a thing as momentum, and can both sides have it at the same time?
Oh yeah, one more so than the other. But I and it's very hard to measure. We didn't see it in. I think it's because of the pandemic. It was very hard to get on the ground and see it in 21, where Jack Ciattarelli came very close, almost 3 points from taking down Murphy. And I think to a degree back in 2009 when Christie was running he was being outspent almost 3-1. And you can check me that. It was even more. For Corzine really poured a lot of money out there. But we didn't really measure the momentum and the enthusiasm in the Republican ranks for Christie, and he won. And so it's very hard. It's very, very hard. It's very anecdotal. It's not something that data can really get its arms around and measure. But there hasn't been a lot of talk about more enthusiasm in the Republican base. I think there's more enthusiasm / frustration in the Republican base that they wanted. They see as their best shot after being in the wilderness this so long, and the Democrats are being fueled by Trump fear. And so, which one really will at the end prevail? We're going to have to see.
Yeah. Madison, Mikey Sherrill, hablando español in North Hudson County. Democrats are still a little concerned about the base, aren't they? Latino voters and Black voters particularly.
Absolutely. I mean, look, President Obama's coming to Newark this weekend. Yeah. That's obviously picked with purpose. I think that Democrats are betting that for those Black and Latino voters who traditionally have been Democratic voters but might have supported Trump last year, they're seeing that all of the economic promises he promised aren't being delivered, so they're going to turn back to Democrats. I think that's something we're just going to have to see at the polls. I think that I go back to the primary a lot when I think about enthusiasm in this race and everything. Cheryl went through a very crowded primary and she won around 1/3 of the vote. There's a lot of people who didn't pick her. And I think there are a lot of people who are begrudgingly supported her. And, I think we've all chronicled there's a lot of bedwetting, as we said, a lot of concerns in the Democratic Party about her. I think ultimately, even though there are concerns, these folks are still going to come out and vote for her. But that's sort of the way that I think about all of these, the question of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And even if they do end up voting for her, I think the fact that they do still have some concerns are valid. So anyway, with the Latino and Black voters, You also need to keep in mind that these voting blocks don't always have the highest turnout in off-year elections. So I think that it will be a helpful sign for what it means for elections going forward, but can't be viewed in a vacuum because turnout might be lower than usual anyway.
Charlie went long, so we got to get one or two
Oh,
word
I'm
answers
sorry.
here. Is there a Bill Spadia factor in this race? Madison.
I don't think so.
That's too many words. You say
Democrats like to
no.
use him, but I don't think so.
Charles?
Very limited. People, the Spadia and Bramnick voters down there.
What did you not all understand about one or two words?
Very limited. Very limited.
Brent.
Minor, but something to watch for.
That's still more than one or two words.
I
Madison,
you,
how do
Brent.
you spell New Jersey?
Not the way that Republicans spelled it on the filler.
Brent, how do you spell New Jersey?
The number one state in the country. That's how I spell it.
Charles?
Best-
NJ.
Best, sir. Yeah, okay, fine. NJ. Sure.
Not that I would ever comment on anything ELEC related, but Jack Ciattarelli being allowed to use his private funds to sue Mikey Sherrill, does that mean we're more likely or less likely to actually see a defamation suit? Charles?
I doubt it, frankly.
Madison.
Yeah, okay. I said I doubt it. 2 words.
I got you, Madison.
Depends if he wins or not, maybe.
I don't know if is a word, but we'll take it. Brent?
I've heard you can expect it after the election.
All right. The state legislature wants to make Salt Water Taffy the official candy of New Jersey. Madison, you voting yes or no?
Not my favorite.
Yeah, Charles.
Not my favorite of my dentist either.
Yeah, Brent.
My wife likes it, so sure.
I hate it.
I love it, actually.
Brent, what is the Pen and Pencil Club?
It is a group of journalists down in Philadelphia that Charlie and I spoke to the other night, and it was a
Yeah.
very wonderful conversation that Aaliyah Schneider put together.
Nice. All right. All right. Must have predictions. I told you this yesterday. Let's start with you, Charles.
I won't get home until 3 p.m. on Wednesday morning.
Madison. Don't cop out like Charles. Come on.
Democrats will send you to bed wet.
Brent.
Cheryl by 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ciattarelli by 1.
All right. Courageous, Brent. Thanks. PRESSCORE is done for the week. Charlie, Brent, Madison, thank you. Good to see you all.
A lot of fun.
Have fun on election night. You
All
folks
right.
listening and watching, like, subscribe, and share to keep the podcast going. I'm David Cruz. Thanks for streaming. We'll see you next week.